In this video, we are going to talk about what's new in Creaform's VXelements 9.0 software. Now, if you're a current customer on maintenance, you will automatically get this software. And of course, if you're a brand new customer, you will get this latest version as well. So let's get started and talk about some of the new features. The first one being a new standalone viewer. And you can basically send this program to anybody. They can install it on their computer, and then you can send them either STL files or OBJ files that you export from VXelements, or you can actually send the session file, and they can look at it. They can't do anything with it, but they can rotate it around, they can zoom in and look at the file. So it's a great way to communicate with people that don't have the VXelements software or just don't have another viewer. Secondly is the smart resolution feature. Now we're going to spend quite a bit of time going through this new powerful feature, so we'll discuss that. There's also some improvements to the finalize command, specifically a few of the options. And then finally some bug fixes and minor updates, and we'll discuss a couple of those as well. All right, so before we get into the smart resolution command, I want to show something first. If you go under the General Display tab, and we have a new setting here called Resolution Colors. The default is set to auto. I'm going to set that to on for right now. And the Smart Resolution is on by default. We'll get into that more here in a minute. But want to kind of show something new, and that is when you start scanning, what you're going to see is some yellow, and you can see it down on the table a little bit as I move around, and then it'll slowly turn blue. Now, at a 1mm resolution, there's not so much of it. Let's reset it, and I'll turn it down. So let's just reset our scan. And let's turn this down now to like 0.25, and then you'll really see it. So now when we start scanning, let's take a look. So now you're going to see, let's zoom in a little bit, you're going to see a lot more of this yellow. And what that is telling you is you don't have enough scan data yet in that area. As you scan over it, based on your current resolution, you'll see the yellow, and then it'll slowly turn to blue. It's really nice because that's basically telling you if you have enough resolution in any given area. So before you just had to kind of guess. Well, now, as you work your way over an area, you basically keep scanning it until it turns blue. And that kind of tells you when you have enough scan data in any given area. So whether you're even using Smart Resolution or not, you could essentially turn this on and at least see, based on your current resolution that you've got set, if you have enough scan data. So it is a nice feature, and it will become important for the smart resolution because in order for it to work, you got to have enough raw scan data in those areas. So you just keep working that till you get what you need. And again, that's under the General Display tab called Resolution Color. All right, so let's get started on the Smart Resolution command. So what I have here is, this is just a camera lens that we 3D scanned, and we're going to show you how this works, because there's primarily 3 different ways you can use this command. Now, the first thing I want to do is get rid of the stuff I don't need. We'll do simply the connect command. I'll pick these items. I don't need the table or the lens cap down here at the bottom. And one of the minor improvements to the software is we have this thing called keep only now. Normally you would invert the selection and then delete what you don't want. Now you just can select what you want and push this button here, keep only, and basically it'll just keep what you've selected. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit first why the smart resolution now exists. Well, if you look at this item here, this lens, you've got some kind of fine areas where these grips are, the buttons, the lens cap, the knurling, etc. And if you want to scan this and get good detail, you can see right now I'm set to 0.25 millimeters. And if we come in and zoom in, you can kind of see what that looks like. In order to be able to pick up this detail, I need to have a pretty tight resolution. But, I don't need it, in other areas, the main barrel and areas out here that, don't require that tight a resolution. But I really don't have a choice. If I want to be able to pick up those fine features, I need to, to process it at that higher resolution. Now, yes, you could decimate afterwards, but you don't have the control that you have with the smart resolution. And if we look right now, we're at about 1.8 million triangles. And again, we're set at 1/4 millimeter. So here's the new smart resolution here. Now, this only happens when we do the finalize, okay? And you've got high, standard, custom, and off. So let's leave it at standard. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn our resolution to 0.5 millimeters. And what standard will do is, let's get it started, and this happens on the finalize. What standard will do is it will double the resolution. So if I'm at 0.5, where it feels it needs, tighter resolution because of more features and curvature, it'll double the resolution. So effectively what I'm doing is adjusting it to 0.5 millimeter triangle spacing everywhere, or triangle length, I should say, everywhere except where it needs it. So let's see what this looks like when it's done. So right now you can see it looks pretty much the same, but you can see our triangle count went down to 1.4 million triangles. Not on a small part like this, not a huge deal, but it certainly would be on something very large. And if we turn back on our triangles, you can essentially see what's happened. So in those tighter areas, we have, tight triangles still. You can see up here at the lens cap, down here on the grips, etc. But you can see it's more spaced out in the other areas. Now let's go back. Well, let's leave the triangles on. And let's just kind of zoom in here. Now let's go ahead and kick it up to high, but let's change our count to 1 millimeter. And high will do a factor up to 2x. So if we're at 1 millimeter, we'll still be able to achieve down to 0.25 millimeters. So it could be 1 millimeter, it could be a 1/2 millimeter, it could be a 1/4 millimeter. It will adjust that triangle length based on, again, the curvature and the detail of the part. So this will allow us to put the resolution up even higher, where we can get away with 1 millimeter in a lot of spots, but yet still preserve it where we want it. So again, you can see we've reduced our file size even more, but again, in those tight areas, we still have, really tight triangles. So that's the advantage of the smart resolution. And using this automated method, you really don't do anything. You do your scanning like normal, and then you just, have this set, and away you go and hit finalize, and you have the results. So you still get a very accurate, very nice looking model, but it'll automatically control this for you. And then finally, there's one called custom, and this basically lets you go up and down. So it's the same kind of thing. Let's go ahead and we'll leave it at 1 mil and run it. What this will do is go up one level and down one level. So if you wanted it to be even coarser in some areas, really try to maybe preserve file size, you could do the custom. I think most people will use standard or high, just kind of depending on, the part, how big it is. And, you can see now we're down to 300,000 triangles, but you can see we're paying the price in certain areas. Still have pretty good tightness in here, and then certainly more coarse in those areas. So the beauty is you can try, different ones to get what you want. You can try at different resolutions and see what works best for you just by reprocessing. Because again, you always have the point cloud underneath to go back and reprocess. So that's the automated way of using the new smart resolution command. All right, next up, let's talk about the manual resolution method. So let's go ahead and turn off the smart resolution, the automatic method. And you'll notice now up here in the menu, we have a couple new icons for manual resolution. So originally we had recorded or scanned this, and we have the 0.25 millimeter resolution. But let's just say only these buttons are really critical. The rest of it, yeah, I'd like to see it in the scan, but it's just not important to me. So to get these buttons even better, you'd have to crank it down even further. So what we can do with manual is actually select areas that we want to apply the smart resolution to. And you can use any of your selection tools. So let's start with the brush command, and I'm just going to paint this area right here for this button. And if I click on here, you're going to see right now the only option would be to increase the resolution by 2x. And that's because of our current resolution over here. We can't go any greater than the limit of the scanner, which is 0.1 millimeter. But watch what happens if I turn this to 1, and then I come back, and you can see now I have 8x, 4x, and 2x. So let's pick 8x, okay? But what you're going to see is that should be pink. You see the color here? But you don't see a lot of pink here. And that's because you see all the yellow? If you remember when we were scanning, we didn't get enough data in here to do a really good job at 8x. We're going to go ahead and leave it anyways, but it's telling us, yeah, you might really need a little more data in there. Now, let's go ahead and paint this one, this area, I should say, this button, and let's set that to 4x. And you can see there's a little bit of yellow in some spots here, but definitely at 4x, we'll be able to get good resolution, not so much yellow, if that makes sense, okay? And then let's do this button here, and we can do 2x. And then finally, if you had areas you just wanted to dumb down, you can do that as well. Let's pick this area, and we'll do a negative 2x, okay? So you can kind of see the color coding here, and it correlates up here. But this one, which should be pink, you see a lot of yellow, and that's basically telling us we don't have enough resolution at our current scan, in our current scan, to really do it effectively. But it still may work. So let's go ahead and finalize, and let's turn on our triangles beforehand so you can see what's going to happen here. Get this into a view, you can see it, and do our finalize. So just to recap, we manually selected areas and gave it different resolution amounts to either increase or decrease, okay? But at 8x, we're really pushing the envelope where we really need to go back and scan some more and basically pick up more data for it to, effectively get to 8x. Now, it'll do the best it can, but it's basically saying, hey, look, I may not be able to increase this by 8x, okay? So let's zoom in, but you can certainly see the mesh is definitely tighter in that area, not quite as tight there, a little bit looser here, and then here you can see we've kind of, let's turn the triangles off for a minute. You can see we've kind of obliterated that area. So we set the whole thing to 1 millimeter, so you can see most of the lens is pretty dull because of that. But you can see we're down to 149,000 triangles. So from 1.8 million down to 149, and again, if we just needed to preserve these buttons in these areas, or a certain button, you can get those areas. So this is really nice to be able to control the resolution in different areas of the part by using this manual resolution command. All right, let's show some of the other selection tools in the software here. So let's say, for example, the lens cap, these ribs are really important to us. And again, maybe I don't need the 1/4 millimeter. So let's set this to 0.5. Let's turn that off. And then let's use our curvature command here. And you can see by using the similar curvature command, I've grabbed kind of the area, and then I can grow that selection slightly so we can get, as much basically similar data growing that out. So now I've got that whole rib area. And let's say that's just really important to me. And let's go ahead and go 4x on that. We'll leave the rest of it at 0.5 millimeter. Again, we've got a little bit of yellow, but, pretty good. Let's go ahead and run this and see what that looks like. So we'll go ahead and run our finalize and see what we get. Okay, so it's done, and hopefully you can see the power of this. So we've dropped our triangle count down to 772,000, but look at our lens cap, really crisp detail, really picking up the surface finish. So, rest of it here at 0.5, maybe that's good enough. We just we just need to know where it is. But maybe what's really critical for inspection or reverse engineering is this area of the lens cap. So again, you can use any of these selection tools to select different parts of the geometry and then change that resolution up or down. And if you don't like it, and you want to try it again or do something different, I'll just go ahead and select it and undo it and unselect it. And then, for example, if I finalize again, it'll just go back to the 0.5 millimeter anywhere. So again, you can do a lot of different trial and error, but this really lets you go in and manually pinpoint, select different areas, and control the resolution up or down. All right, so the next method is on the scanner itself. So what we mean by that is while you're doing the scanning, you can basically turn on this smart resolution mode. So we'll have it turned off here in the smart resolution mode. And then if you look over here, there's some new settings. And this will also be based on your resolution. So for example, if I'm set to 0.25 resolution, then my only option would be 2x. If I set this up to 1 millimeter, then I can go up to 8x. So let's set it at 0.5. And let's set our multiplier by 4x, okay? And we'll do our normal scanning, so nothing will change. Just turn our shutter up a little bit. And we'll go ahead and start scanning. And then at any time that we want to invoke the smart resolution mode, you're going to select a button on the scanner. And it'll depend on the scanner. On the HandyScan Black and the MetraScan Black, it's a double tap of one of the buttons. And then on the GoScan Spark, it's pushing 2 buttons at one time. But when you go into that mode, you see what happens here. Okay, so it zooms in, and you get this little circle, and you just start painting that area. And again, it's color-coded to whatever resolution you're currently working with. So the 4x is going to be the purple color. And you can see, as I paint the area, the yellow goes away as I get enough data in that area. So let's come down here. And, so this would be great, I think, mostly if you're working with a really maybe big part, but you've just got a couple areas you really want to make sure you get some good resolution in. You could use this method. So everywhere that I'm painting it purple, it's going to have 4x the resolution of whatever I'm set at, which right now is 0.5. And as long as it turns from, now this is difficult here, it's actually glass in that area, so I wouldn't expect it to do too well. But anywhere you go, let's go up here where this cap is really dark, and you can crank your shutter up a little bit. So this shows it well. So we really got to work this area and make sure we get it to be purple and not yellow if this is important to us, okay? And then we can double click the command to disable it, and let's zoom in a little bit and go back. So this is kind of neat because right on the fly, if I have certain areas that I need higher resolution, you would be able to do it. So let's go ahead and stop the scan. And let's go ahead and hit our finalize button. Let's do this. Let's zoom in, turn on our triangles. Okay, so right now it's all the same at 0.5 millimeter. Go ahead and do our finalize, and let's see how this looks. All right, so it's done processing, and you can clearly see where the purple is. Now, one thing to point out on the resolution colors, I have it set to on. If you have it set to auto, after you do the finalize, it'll go back to the normal color. I like to leave it on just to kind of see where I did it. So let's turn triangles off. But you can see purple to the teal color here, where we had where we scanned with the smart resolution. It's very evident the difference between the two. So look at the button here versus over here and so forth. So this is really slick on the fly. Maybe you're scanning something that doesn't have a lot of detail, but then there's a couple areas that you really want to get some high detail. You just double click the button, grab those areas, and you're basically doing it on the fly as you go. So that is the on the scanner method to the Smart Resolution command. So one of the other enhancements is to the reduce noise and sharpen edges modifiers that happen during the finalize process. Now, you may recall they changed this, I believe, in version 8, where they've got some preset ones that you can just pick, or you can just go to custom and then put in whatever you want. So if you want to maximize reducing the noise and smoothing it out, and sharpening the edges, you can select those here under the custom. And they've made some changes to the algorithms just to continue to improve the post-processing during the finalize of the scan data to try to give you really nice sharp edges and smooth out the data to try to make it as smooth as possible. So again, just another nice enhancement to the version 9 software is the reduce noise and sharpen edges. So this wraps up our video on what's new in VXelements 9.0. Now, again, if you're a customer and you're current on your maintenance program, you will automatically be able to download and use this new software. If you're not on maintenance and would like to maybe get back on maintenance, reach out to us and we can have a discussion with you to talk about how to get you back on maintenance. And if you need some additional training or retraining, we can also facilitate that. And finally, if you're not a Creaform customer, or maybe you've got an older scanner and software and you would like to discuss taking a look at some of this new technology, reach out to us because we can do both a virtual or an in-person demonstration. We have customers all over the U.S., so it really doesn't matter where you're located. We can demonstrate the latest software and hardware to you and provide installation and training and really everything you need. So again, this wraps up the video on VXelements 9.0.